Hey folks, Coach Patrick here, Endurance Nation, back with another special episode. This is part 2 of our Faster Masters series, an exploration inside the team of our lessons learned collectively over the last 20 plus years of racing, an opportunity to bring some of these elements about what it means to be peak, what it means to be high performing, and also yet still be a masters, right? As we sort of index on time on the bottom axis and experience and excellence on that vertical axis. The Faster Masters orients in the upper right-hand quadrant. It's a place where we want to put you, where we help athletes just like you get better. It's an opportunity for us to talk a little bit about the strengths that we have based off of our limitations. I am fond of saying that I've never met a constraint that I didn't like, and age, my friends, is just another constraint. It's as tough, as tight a seatbelt as you want it to be. You can put it on when you get in the car. You can take it off if you want to. And it's up to you as an athlete who's in control. And ideally, I'm going to help you do a little bit of that here today in this episode to decide when and where you want to buckle up, which parts you want to dial into, and which parts you want to explore. Now, in past episodes, we talked a little bit about the rules of being a master, what it means to be successful, sort of knowing our elements of what it means to age and where we are today. I want to talk a little bit about being sick, injured, broken, the challenges, the outcomes of those challenges, the impacts of those challenges that we face as endurance athletes as we age. Now, here we go. You ready for this? I hope you're buckled in. I am, because it's a reality. It's something we face, but it's not something we often talk about. And those are the challenges that we face as we age with regards to sort of our immuno strength, with regards to our muscular physical strength, in terms of our resilience under load. All of these are different elements that we experience. And as a reality, what we tend to see for our endurance athletes who fit into that master's category, I'm calling you 45 plus, but really you should probably start thinking about this when you're 40 plus, is that you're going to start to experience lots of little setbacks, not big setbacks. So when you were younger, you might have gone mountain biking, for example, no idea what you're doing, but like, let's go, adventure quotient super high, fall off the side of a cliff, break a collarbone, break something, break your hip, something crazy, right? You went epic, you went big, doesn't always work, don't always stick that landing, and you went big and you broke it. Those are sort of the epic things that live out there. And those live as sort of different dots on our timeline as we move forward. But as we go forward as an endurance athlete over time, as time rolls on, inevitably, as it does, we start to notice that the setbacks aren't like that anymore. We're not participating in those types of activities. Some of you are. Kudos to you. That's all right. For most of us, the setbacks are of a different nature. They happen before we even get to the mountain bike on the cliff and that whole opportunity where we have a problem somewhere else. Our Achilles bothers us. We get sick on the plane flight out, and we can't go through with this sort of epic thing that we wanted to do. We're just larger sense of fatigue. We don't even get to do the training that we wanted to do to be ready to get on the plane, to go potentially not, or maybe get sick en route to the epicness, right? All of a sudden, our risk potential goes up for lots of smaller factors as our bodies age and change. And this can become somewhat of a depressing fact of being a master's athlete. And some people look at this as a situation of, I've got to really stay inside my lane because there's all these things that could potentially go wrong around me that I wasn't even aware of before, I wasn't paying attention to, but now they're on my radar and they're things I know they need to be worried about. What I'm here to tell you today is that actually that's not the case at all. These are small milestones, markers that help you become actually a better and stronger athlete. Each of these little pieces of feedback, as you become more tuned into your body, allows you to understand the balance between working hard and getting the results that you want. And when we talk about getting results, we're talking about those peak performances, chances to go epic, chances to adventure, et cetera. And that all of these little data points you have around, hey, I'm getting sick, or hey, I don't feel so good, or hey, my calf is tight. Those are little elements of your body giving you feedback on the work that you're doing. And they're opportunities for you to adjust, not to shut down, not to turn off, but to adjust. And these are things that most likely you've already seen in your past as an endurance athlete. You've kind of known that these data points existed out there. You maybe struggled or didn't struggle with them in the past. And you kind of get a sense of like, I've kind of always had like a little bit of a calf issue. My hips have always been a little imbalanced, or yep, I've had to turn run shoes over faster mid-year versus end of year or off-season time. When we think about those different elements, they just come more and more to the forefront as a master's athlete. But the good news is that you know these things about your body. You've had them there before. So how do we turn these little warning signs into strategic advantages? How do we turn these small milestone moments into stepping stones for you to be successful? So I want to talk a little bit about that today. So first and foremost, I'm operating under the assumption that you've been an endurance athlete for a while, and you've been on the roller coaster of ups and downs. You've had successes, you've had challenges, and you get a sense of there's times when I can work and there's times when I can't work. In the past, we've had a lot of agency inside that space. We as our athletes could say, March, I'm going big. or June, I'm going big, or I was going big in March, but now I'm going big in February because my schedule shifted, etc. We've had a larger degree of agency inside that space. As we age, our body, the conditions under which we are operating, starts to take a larger role in that decision-making process. Not to say that we can't be amazing, not to say that we can't be epic, but to say that we have to sort of come to an agreement with our body in terms of the limitations of what we can do and craft a plan that takes that information into account as we go forward. So maybe you want to logistically peak in March, but you can look back at your training calendar and say, for the last 6 weeks, I haven't really done the work that's going to allow me to peak in March. I can't peak in March because this work that I've done doesn't set me up. Or just as equally, on the other side, the work I need to do to get from here to that peak in March, I'm not going to be able to handle that load because of my body. Like I have a sense that that's not going to go well for me. And we have to come up to a place where we can have that agreement and create a plan that allows you to go forward and to be successful. So we need to use our strengths as a master's athlete. And you have two distinct strengths I want to touch on. First, just general awareness, right? As a master's athlete, you become more in tune to your limitations. So, like I mentioned earlier, tightness in your calf, tightness in your hip, your hamstring, fatigue after an interval set, or fatigue after a big set as well. These are indications where in the past you would ignore that because you wouldn't really notice fatigue. You just charge on, right? You just go out with your friends, get a pizza, have some beer after your big ride on Saturday, just keep rolling right into Saturday night. We're great. You would ignore that fatigue. It's not that the fatigue wasn't there. It was that you were able to ignore it. Now that fatigue is there and you are not able to ignore it. It is hindering, in some cases, perhaps even impairing your ability to do the other things that you want to do. So we have to make adjustments. So this self-awareness for you becomes a core strength, right? It's empathy, but not empathy externally to others. It's empathy inwards to yourself as a master's athlete to say, I understand that was a lot of work. I just asked a lot of you. We're going to give you a little bit of rest, right? The second key thing you need to focus on here is that we have a smaller margin of error. We have a smaller window for making mistakes. So in the past, if you had a problem with your lower back, or you had a problem with rest, you could say, I'll get to that this weekend, or maybe next time it shows up, I'll do something about it. As we become more old, as we age, and as we remain competitive, that window narrows. That sort of niggling or challenge that you have, we kind of have to address it in the first 7 days, first 3 days even. Or if you don't feel good tomorrow, take a day off. We have to be very proactive in terms of a rest and recovery so we can offset problems before they become a real problem. So rather than driving, just a simple analogy for you, and getting to a place where the gas tank is not only on E, but the light is flashing and something's chiming at you, like all of the sensors are going off, probably your passengers are uncomfortably squirming inside their seats. For us, once we get down below the half full tank, we get the half empty, we just want to check and be like, where's the next gas station? We just want to know where it's at. I'm going to make some decisions about it. Or when you're at a quarter tank, you're going to pull over to the gas station. I'm going to fix this now before I even get down to below a quarter tank because I don't even want to be inside that position. It's a slightly conservative mentality with your training and the resiliency of your body. But what that allows you to do is to go bigger and to continue to peak and be large, be epic, do those things that you want to do because you've been really good managing this baseline. So here are our protocols for you that I want to cover in today's episode. Number one, you've got to be tracking your fatigue indicators. So if you're not tracking HRV or resting heart rate or your sleep score, some version of those, one or all of those three factors, you have to start doing it now. Your ability to rest and recover is the largest success factor. It is the easiest to manage, and it is the easiest to make sure that everything is right. So when you get that number right, you get a lot of other things right by default. And we want to make it easy for you. So if you don't have a mechanism for tracking HRV or your resting heart rate or your sleep quality, then you want to get on one of those now. You can choose whether you want a ring, a strap, a mattress cover, a mattress pad. I don't know what all those different elements are for tracking for you, but it's very important for you to be able to get that all dialed in. For me, I use my Oura Ring so I can track my HRV and my sleep quality, and it gives me great indicators ahead of time when I'm running into trouble and I need to take some proactive changes. In fact, it allows me to see, even before I feel fatigue, I can see the numbers aren't looking good. And I probably tell myself, hey, in 2 or 3 days, I'm going to feel bad. And I can make changes early so I don't drive off the road, but instead I can course correct very soon. Think about it like your lane change assist in your car, just something else that makes you a better driver, in this case, of your body and your goals for the season. Okay. The second protocol that's really important for you as a master's athlete is understanding the significance of ramp rate. Ramp rate is essentially duration, again, of time on the bottom axis and then effort on the top. So when you want to go from 0 to marathon day or 0 to half Ironman day or 0 to gravel race day, whatever that is, between now and the race, you have goals in terms of your fitness and performance, and there's a ramp rate where you're going to add training to that. The steeper the ramp rate, the higher the cost to your body in the short term. The longer the ramp rate, the lower the cost to your body in the short term. There are costs associated with longer and lower ramp rates, which is, hey, you've got to stay focused for a long time. It's harder. So how do you juggle that as a master's athlete? Well, depending on your sport, depending on your physical condition, depending on the duration, you have lots of modalities to it. But for us, each of us has a ramp rate based on a modality: running, swimming, biking, rucking, adventure racing, whatever it may be for you. You've got a ramp rate that you know you can tolerate and a ramp rate you can't. And we have to take that into account. So if you want to be more aggressive than your baseline ramp rate, then we have to factor in additional rest. So if you want to go big fast, you might do 5 days of work and 2 full days of rest in a week. Right? That's a great way to make sure that you fully recover before you go for another 5 days. If you can't handle that steep rate, you may have to go, 3-1, 3-1 and be a little aggressive, but space out those rest days so we get a little bit more break inside there. Or you may need to actually plan on a 12-week build instead of a 6-week build because you just need more time inside that space to adapt to the training load. One of the ways we offset this is by not taking too much time off at the end of each season, staying active, keeping that aerobic, functional movement mentality in place. Hiking, walking, weighted walking, all of those things are very helpful in terms of keeping you active. But we want to find a modality that allows you to move so that we don't get tight. We don't become restricted in our movements. And that allows us to, again, ramp more easily, more quickly as we go forward. Okay. And the last one here is understanding the background stress elements that exist in your life. Now, this could be work. This could be emotional. It could be social emotional. It could be friend-based. It could be relationship-based. It could just be life-based, right? Or facts, news. You watch news-based, right? Like, hey, there's a lot of bad news out there today. That's how news is geared. If some of that or some of those external forces are impinging upon you, we have to take that into account. Again, in other modalities, we were able to ignore that. As masters athletes, we can't. We have to take that stress into account. And again, the good news is you track some of those core metrics like recovery, HRV, resting heart rate, sleep. All of those elements capture some of that external stress, but you yourself have to become mindful of it. So as you start to manage these 3 protocols, understanding the macro level of those recovery numbers, the smaller inside area, understanding the ramp rate and the intensity you're putting in there, and then the background stress that you have, dialing in those 3 perspectives allows you to become successful because you can make better short-term training decisions that set you up for those bigger long-term goals. The ways we do this inside Endurance Nation: number 1, we have built-in rest days, like default built-in rest days for all of our training plans, more so in the winter than we do in the summer, but we have opportunities for you to add that rest day in any one. And if you don't already have rest days built in your training program, go back, put them in now. You'll be glad you did. Number 2, we have default work options. What do you do in the case where you can't do that training plan? What do you do when you can't do the workout that you want this week? Travel, life, etc. What's your default workout option? We help every athlete set a default workout plan. So you can always pick that up and say, if I can't do X, I'm going to do my default. If I can't do Y, I'm going to do my default. What's my default plan? So I can keep things rolling. I can avoid the time off that I don't need to take off. And I can be really on top of everything that I need to do from a macro level standpoint. So all the trains are still running on time, even if this particular connection was missed for today. Right. And the last piece is we use variety. And this is really important. It starts from our triathlon background, but it has evolved over time to become something that's actually really powerful for us as athletes, which is to say a diversity of training inputs and a diversity of race day options create the best possible athletes. This is my favorite part about Masters. You have a little more time. You've got a little more equipment. You've accumulated over the years, and you have an opportunity to go out and do some fun stuff and explore. And we encourage people to have very dynamic seasons. Doing a season with 10 triathlons, like cool, but I'd much rather see a season that has a half marathon in there, a century ride, maybe an open water swim, or like a big hiking adventure, camping, outdoor adventure for you. I want to see diversity in your training, and that diversity is going to not only keep you healthier as an athlete, it's going to keep you more engaged, tap into some of your latent strengths as an master's athlete, and allow you to become more successful and, quite frankly, have more fun as you go forward. We'll be back with more Masters insights and topics. If you want to learn more about it, come check us out at endurancenation.us. You can apply to join the team. Come inside. First 30 days, money back guarantee. Happy to talk to you about your season, set these goals for you, get you on track to be the best possible Masters athlete you can be. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Coach Patrick signing off. I'll see you next week. Another episode. Be well, be safe out there. Have fun.